Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy Hodges, advocate for OCD, certified peer support specialist, working with people worldwide to provide support and working toward recovery for OCD, and also referral consultations to help connect you to specialists who can help. I'm also the author of Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. I'm so glad that you're here tonight. You probably are struggling, or maybe this topic piqued your interest, but I'm going to tell you it's really awesome to see you here. You are good people. If you're thinking about the topic that I'm going to talk about tonight, about imposter syndrome and being a fraud because of your OCD, my thoughts are that you probably do feel this way, and I just want you to know, nope, you're good people. People with OCD are amazing, strong, and resilient, and y'all are my people. And so I am going to believe that about you because I need to believe that about myself as well, and we are in this together. So it's good to see you. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoy the video. NoCD in OCD is an app, and they provide a lot of things within their app, including being able to connect to people in the community, but they also provide telehealth in a lot of places around the world. So if you want to find out more about what they offer, if you're looking to get some ERP, go to treatmyocd.com. So today I wanted to talk about imposter syndrome and how OCD can sometimes make you feel like a fraud. Now, you don't hear a lot about this, and this is why I'm bringing it up. We talked about it in group, which, by the way, I run 8-week closed groups. They're really amazing groups. You can join, meet different people who have OCD, and we talk about recovery topics, and they're pretty dang awesome. So go to chrissyhodges.com to find out more about that. But this came up in group, and I just thought I had a lot of passionate feelings. I mean, because I'm never passionate about anything. I had a lot of feelings about this, and it really kind of sparked my interest to think that it might be something that you are experiencing as well and could use a little bit of normalization and validation around. So let's talk. Imposter syndrome. So this is a common thing that people experience. It doesn't matter if you have OCD in general. It basically is that feeling that you're an imposter in whatever capacity that you're looking at yourself and having some insecurity. I mean, people can feel like imposters when they're at the top of their game at their careers. And, you know, they can feel like that if they're in a relationship that's going really well, or they can feel like that, you know, if they're an athlete and they're doing well, or, you know, anything. It's basically that insecurity that you have. Sometimes people describe it as, gosh, this must be luck, you know, or people are going to find out that I'm an imposter and that I'm not who I say I am, or I'm not as good as I think that I am. And this can happen when you have worked for years and years and years, or you've mastered the craft of whatever your expertise is, and you can still have this feeling inside of you that says, yeah, people are going to find out that you're not who you are. An imposter, right? And it is really driven by insecurity. And I do want to preface this video with everybody. Okay, not everybody. Probably narcissists don't. But lots of people, majority of people that I ever talk about with this has had imposter syndrome at some point. And it can be a real... It can be a pain in the ass when you're, you know, again, like at the top of your game, or when you're, you know, really into a career that you want. It comes across as just feeling like, wow, this could be taken from me at any moment, or people are going to find out that I'm not who I say I am, or maybe everything. You know, I have imposter syndrome right now about grad school, and I'm really good at grad school because I have a lot of experience. So that experience lends to me understanding the topics in the classes that I'm already doing. But the imposter syndrome for me is, well, this must be this must be an easy program, you know, or, you know, it's just the easiest, you know, possible anything, because I'm too stupid to believe that I would be good at this. And the imposter syndrome for me comes from years and years and years of believing that I wasn't worthy or deserving of getting a master's degree, which of course I had to kick to the curb and be like, fuck that, I'm doing it anyway. But the fact that I'm doing well really makes me feel like an imposter, like I don't deserve it, like maybe the curriculum is so easy and that's the only reason why, or they just feel sorry for me because I'm 45 years old and a master's degree. They're like, let's just pass this girl. Or it's because I raise hell when I don't understand something and they're like, let's just pass her so she'll shut up. So those are all examples of imposter syndrome. But anyway, you can also relate imposter syndrome to being a fraud. And these are really common things that we experience when we're living with OCD. So I wanted to make 3 points tonight on this video. The first, and I'm going to base this a lot on my own lived experience and things that I've heard from other people who experience this. So the first thing is this. Hello, OCD is ego dystonic. So we have these horrible, stupid, ridiculous thoughts that we know aren't real, but we can't stop. We can't stop thinking about them. We can't solve them. We have physical responses to them. So right there, we're setting ourselves up to be like, I don't know who I am. I think I'm this person, but my brain is telling me something else. My body is telling me something else. My groin is telling me something else. Every other erogenous zone in me is telling something else. So that must mean I just don't know who I am. And that can really feel like, well, then I'm an imposter. How can that feel this way? Well, because if I know I am straight, right? I'm a heterosexual female, but I'm having intrusive thoughts about my sexuality. Am I straight? What if I'm bi? What if I'm gay? What if I'm this or that? You know, then all of a sudden I feel like, oh my gosh, I really don't know who I am. And then that's going to translate over to other people if I'm in a relationship or if I'm talking about sexuality to someone and I'm sitting here saying, oh yeah, I'm heterosexual, I like dudes, or whatever. I'm going to sit here and go, but my brain is telling me that I don't. So that must mean I'm lying. That must mean I'm a fraud. And what if they knew that I was having these thoughts, but I really believe that I'm heterosexual? But if I am, then why would my brain tell me that I'm not? So you see, and how that translates over is I'm not being authentic to people. And so sometimes when we're equating our intrusive thoughts to authenticity, this is where we can get really, really messed up and really deeply entrenched in the cycle. I need to know who I am. I need to know that everything, all these thoughts that I have, I can easily solve so people can know exactly who I am, because otherwise I am an imposter. I'm a fraud. And what that also sets up for us when it comes to authenticity is this. People just don't really even know who I am. I mean, you might even think to yourself, well, I don't even know who I am because I think I know, but my brain is telling me something else. You know, it's gaslighting me to believe, you know, I know this thing, but it's telling me that I'm not, and it's telling me I'm nuts. And I don't understand why it is I can't just simply solve the problem. If you've seen any of my other videos, I don't want to go into this, but I explain in great detail why you can't solve the problem. It's because the amygdala and this is a glitch and there is no resolution, which is why this can be so hard. But what that does is it separates us from people, right? So I remember specifically when I was really sick in my teenage years and I desperately wanted to connect to people. I felt so lonely in this illness. I was just lonely in general because I was a teenager, and that's usually what people feel when they're a teenager. And I just felt like I can connect with people, and I'm a pretty good connector. You know, I can build relationships with people. I can connect with people on different levels. But I thought nobody knows who I really am. And I was equating my intrusive thoughts to my authentic self. This is a absolute no. You do not equate who you are, your character, everything about you, your values. I'm going to put a video about that on Instagram here in a little bit, about the value piece. I don't want to get into it tonight. I'll do a whole video on it later. But because sometimes our values can get mixed up because the compulsions wear off and then we think, oh my God, I don't know what my values are anymore, and there are my values and intrusive thoughts. But I don't want to go down that path. Just wait for that video. Anyway, we know who we are, okay? We know our character. We know we have insight And here we have insight that the intrusive thoughts aren't real. And I'm gonna tell you what you just thought. You went, but Chrissy, I don't think I do have insight. Yeah, you do, because that's why you're here. Okay? I'm not gonna go into why you have insight, and I'm not gonna try to convince you because that would be reassurance. But if you didn't have insight about your intrusive thoughts, you would not be watching this video right now. Watching the video is insight, okay? Having insight that you may not have insight is actually insight. So there you go. Okay, so this can lead us to believe that we can't connect with other people, which then can lead us to believe that we're an imposter. We're a fraud. People don't really know who we are. And if they did know who we are, when we're equating our intrusive thoughts to who we are as our character, personality, all that, they would reject me. They would leave me. They would want nothing to do with me, especially when the thoughts are really taboo and we think that would make us a bad person. So this is one area where the imposter syndrome can show up. So for me, there's a lot of ways it can, but I'm just going to go over 3, okay? So the second way that this can show up is, for me, it was after the diagnosis and after the treatment. Okay, so I had a pretty horrible suicide attempt, and then I was hospitalized. So this was a big break in my reality. I mean, I went from everything was fine, and I was this straight A student, and I ran cross country for my college. I was full ride, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, like over Christmas break, I almost died by suicide, and I was hospitalized. I mean, everybody was in shock. I was in shock. I didn't think I was going to survive. And so when I did, then I was faced with this mental disorder diagnosis. I had to tell everybody what my intrusive thoughts were that I had kept to myself for 12 years. And that was devastating, right? I had to say out loud the shit that had been driving me nuts for so long that I almost, that I wanted to end my life over. By the way, I attempted suicide because back then we didn't have any internet. I didn't know, there was nothing, so I know that you might hear that and that might trigger you of like, well, if Chrissy attempted suicide, what if I attempt suicide? Look, like, you're here, you know that this is a real thing. There was nothing like this over AOL dial-up when I lived with this. Otherwise my path may have been different, and I would have found out beforehand, and I would have sought help. Suicidal ideation is pretty common when you live with OCD, right? But I was really depressed and had a traumatic event happen, and so that's what led me to that. Now, I got treatment. I was lucky to be able to find treatment, and I was lucky to be able to afford treatment, and then it was effective, okay? But then I was all of a sudden branded as this mentally ill person, okay? So now I have this mental illness. Now I feel all this shame. Now I'm the identified patient. Now I really feel the imposter syndrome. And so my goal then was to keep this from everybody. I was 21 years old after I went through therapy, and I thought nobody's going to find out about the suicide attempt, hospitalization, none of that. Nobody's going to find out. So then it became another form of that imposter syndrome. Here I am branching out into the world, knowing that I had had this horrible experience with OCD, knowing I have this mental illness, and I don't want anyone to know because it's so stigmatizing. I'm doing the same shit I was doing before, right? Then people don't really know the real me. So I'm living this life, but I'm hiding this big secret. And I'm certainly hiding it because I don't want to be a burden to the people around me. I don't want to be the person that's like, I'm having anxiety. People don't want to deal with that shit, right? I mean, they can, and they do, because people can be very good. And when you find the right people, they can be awesome, right? But in my brain, I thought, I cannot be that burden. I'm damaged goods. Here we go again. I talk about this a lot. I'm damaged goods. Why would anyone want to be with me when they could be with someone that wasn't mentally ill, that didn't have the history that I had? So my solution was to keep it a secret, which then made me feel like a fraud again. Okay? Because now I'm keeping this huge part away from people. And what if they did find out about it? So I had imposter syndrome both about living with the symptoms and then afterwards about being diagnosed and treated for the symptoms. So it was just a hard time of life for me. I actually think my 20s were worse than when I was just living with the symptoms and didn't have to deal with it. I did come to terms with that. And if you are experiencing that, I just want to normalize that for you and know that you're not alone, and that a lot of us hide this from people. But then here comes the third piece. Okay, the imposter syndrome can come from the actual thoughts that we had or that we have. When we have thoughts that are super taboo, or that can be taken, or if people just don't understand them, like the example that I used before, like sexuality, right? Sexual or sexual orientation. You know, when you have intrusive thoughts about sexual orientation, you're going to inevitably tell somebody, and they're going to be like if you identify as straight, you're going to inevitably tell someone, and they're going to be like, well, are you gay? Because, you know, there's really nothing wrong with it. That's not what you want to hear. You already know that shit. And you've told yourself that over and over and over and over. And if that worked, then it would be, there wouldn't be a question, right? But it's something that you feel like you have to hide from people. Because what if? You know, if you're gay and you're worried about being straight, what are you going to do? Tell your family that you're worried about being straight when you've already come out? You know, this is a really distressing thing for people. The same with transgender, like OCD theme. You know, it's, you know, when you're transgender and that you worry that you're not, or if you're not transgender and you worry that you are. You know, you feel like you're lying to people. You feel like you're not being authentic. And that can bring the imposter syndrome. I am an imposter because I cannot figure this out. And there's no solution, right? There's no way to solve it. So I wanted to use that as an example because that is something that you can, that is a theme that you really can feel like you're hiding from people. But then let's move to the taboo themes. When you have taboo themes like pedophilia, incest, bestiality, these themes, necrophilia, these themes are just so off the wall that people have an inflammatory reaction on, even if you get effective treatment. The imposter syndrome then comes from, what if people knew I had the thoughts and they didn't understand? Or you're still struggling with the shame and the guilt from having the thoughts in the first place. We all know taboo thoughts can equate to, there must be some truth if you had these thoughts to begin with, because they're so awful that any person that has any morals would never have them. I mean, that is just a bullshit alert anyway, because we all know that we have these horrible thoughts. And they just show up and it has nothing to do with our character. I know you're going, well, maybe it does. But don't listen to that voice. Listen to Chrissy's voice. But that can haunt you too. And that really can contribute to the I am damaged goods. I'm not good enough. I am not deserving. I'm not worthy. So this goes into the, you know, when you're establishing a career, right? When good things happen to you, when you feel happy, when you fall in love, you know, when you have kids, when you hit these milestones and you just think, I don't deserve this because of the thoughts I had. I am an imposter. I am a fraud. If anybody ever knew, or the fact that I just even had them puts me back in that headspace. Okay, so this is exactly what the imposter syndrome is about. So I just wanted to share with you those three things. Take those or look at other areas where the imposter syndrome shows up in relation to OCD. And just know, even if I didn't mention how it shows up for you, this is super, super common. And a lot of times it's accompanied by shame and guilt, and also our fears and our belief that we aren't showing up as our authentic self if we don't disclose everything to every person that means something in our life. That is not true. Your story and your themes are your story and your themes to tell. You don't owe that to anybody. You don't have to get anybody's approval. You don't have to confess things to people so they can tell you that you're a good person. I'm telling you right now, it is common. Lots of people feel shame and guilt, but it is individual to you. It is individual to me. I don't owe anything to anybody in order to be accepted and loved, and neither do you. You can take that shit with you to the grave. Or you can meet with me and we can talk about it because I get it. Or you can meet with other people that have OCD and you can talk to them because you know they're going to get it without explanation. You don't have to apologize, and you don't have to disclose to be your authentic self. I'm going to close with this. You are your authentic self. And let me tell you something. You're authentic and you have OCD. I know you're like, but I'm the only one that doesn't. It's true. Just because you have OCD and just because you have these thoughts doesn't lessen how much you deserve, how much you're worthy, and how authentic you are, and how real you can be with other people. You are deserving of those relationships, and you are especially deserving because of what you've been through. And you know how I know that? Because I am especially deserving because what I have been through. And we are the same. And we are good people. Take that. Believe me. Don't question it, even though OCD is telling you to right now. And thank you for showing up for this, and I hope that it helped. And I'll see you next time.